Summer racing is full swing now at the spa. Welcome, horse racing fans, to Keats Cash Plays, where we look to value play horses to really spice up those payouts and add to your bankroll on the big race day. And my name is Keith, and you can find me at the handle Each Every Stride on X Twitter. Appreciate you joining me this week. I'm really excited for this episode at the spa, as you could tell with my intro. That's right, Saratoga Racecourse for Whitney Day. It's an action-packed card with 3 Grade 1 races, including the Saratoga Derby, the Test, and the $1 Million Whitney. A lot of connections have been here actually for a while, and some horses have even shipped recently. It's an excellent card with full fields, and I'm really looking forward to catching up with my friends in person. I will be there on site this weekend. I'll be live content in this show as well, where we look for value play horses. I have 5 value play horses myself, but I did not come alone. I have a guest this week that's a great friend of mine from horse racing Twitter. He's helped launch the Naira Bets YouTube channel. It already has 1,000 subscribers, ranges from content from track stats, capping the cards, and of course, live streams from ASD on Tuesday. I mean, does it get any better than that? And then, of course, it could get better. We actually have the professor's whiteboard as well. So I'd like to welcome my good friend to the show, Matthew DeSantis. Thank you so much for coming back on the show today, Matthew. And how are you?
I'm doing great after that introduction. I was looking around who you might be talking about. No, that was fantastic, Keith. It's great to see you. Look forward to seeing you this weekend up here at the spa, and look forward to seeing a lot of other folks who are coming up, making the pilgrimage to Saratoga this week. And you're right, a great card, 13 races, 3 graded stakes, like you mentioned, some really full fields, some fun maiden races as well. Those 2-year-old races at Saratoga, man, they're always a lot of fun. You never know what future star you might be seeing on the rise in those races. So, yeah, going to be a great day, and look forward to finding some value for the people. That's going to be a lot of fun.
Appreciate you joining me, Matthew. And yeah, that's what it's all about. We make this content to, give you some insight, angles, and, just how we kind of handicap the races. And, hats off to the racing office too, for having these PPs out early. I mean, that's always a pet peeve of mine, but we had them basically a week early to kind of grind and, look at these, really crunch these numbers.
Absolutely. That's something our racing office up here at Naira has started to do for the Saratoga meet, is we draw the races about 6 days in advance. We draw the Sunday race 5 days in advance. We draw Sunday on Wednesday. But yeah, it's great to be able to draw Whitney Saturday last Sunday. And it gives everybody an opportunity to look over the PPs, like you said, gives people an opportunity to get excited for the races and to make content. I mean, I remember being in your shoes not all that long ago. Listen, it's about making that content and getting people out there. And I'm doing the same thing now with Naira Bets YouTube, where, the earlier we can get videos out, the more people can watch them and engage them and think about how they're going to approach those races. So I definitely appreciate our racing office getting it out early. And it's always fun on those big days to really dive into the card, because there's so much to dive into.
Oh, yeah, you can really get lost in this card. I mean, as I was saying, there's the full fields, and I landed on 5 value play horses, and I know you did as well. And of course, we're going to talk more about also the competitors of these races. A lot of interesting horses even returning. And then, of course, the $1 Million Whitney. We're going to talk about that field as well. So appreciate you tuning in to the show here on Keats Cash Plays. You remember to hit the like button and subscribe to Trust the Profits. And we're going to dive right in. I know, Matthew, you just mentioned about 2-year-old races. And I actually was intrigued by a horse here in race 1. So I know you got a bunch of horses throughout the card, but I got a race 1 here. So we'll start it right off here on Keats Cash Plays. All right, great. So let's go look at the PPs here. Now, I do have a horse. I'll start it off here with Clock Tower. This is for Wesley Ward and Johnny V. Now, this horse caught my eye. So this is a maiden special weight for a purse of $100,000, going 8.5 furlongs on the turf for 2-year-olds. So this is very intriguing for 2-year-olds to go that distance on the turf. Now, we know Wesley Ward, he trains 2-year-olds well. Now, as far as his firsters break very well usually on debut. And that's what Clock Tower did at Churchill on May 24th. So let's go a little closer here. All right, let's look here. Now went off as even money favorite. Now we get 6-1. So that was interesting to me. Now he hung around for third place in an 8-horse field on debut, setting the pace, coming out right on the lead like the Wesley Ward horse would. And now switches to the turf and stretches out. So I like that angle. But what really kind of caught my eye here, and I've actually had some success so far at the Saratoga meet with this angle, is Ward decides to take the blinkers off here after the debut. So maybe get this horse to kind of relax a little bit. Second start, stretching out on debut. I have a confidence that, Wesley Ward, with this decision, this could be a good move here. You're getting 6-1 instead of even money. I mean, this horse went off even money in a pretty tough maiden $120,000 level there at Churchill. And so you get, the highest percentage jockey trainer combo in this field, the Ward and Johnny V hitting at 28%. So I just thought it was an interesting thing. Now, the prodigy here, as I look a little further, not this time, the sire. I have a couple of points on this sire now. It's a versatile type. And we even see Cogburn later on in the Troy Stakes, champion sprinter. So I know that's sprinting on the turf, but that's upside that I like, that they're putting this horse on the turf. It was met well and from, Giants Causeway. So I just thought, a bankroll builder to start 6-1. We're trying to get 5-1 or higher. So give me Clock Tower with the blinkers off angle here. Hopefully kind of, I know he's going to be close to the lead, but kind of relax and stretch out on the turf.
Yeah, listen, I like that play. And Johnny Velasquez is going to be a name you're going to hear a little bit more from with regards to some of my plays as well today. And part of the reason for that is there's no jockey better, in my opinion, than getting a young horse to relax on the lead than John Velasquez. He just has those soft hands. He's able to get a horse out there, get him out of trouble, and put them on the lead or an attracting position, get them to relax. And that's so important for these young horses. And particularly this one, stretching out, get the blinkers off, get that horse relaxed into their gallop and just into their stride. Definitely like this one. I actually took a long look at this one as a potential value play. So I was glad you ended up going this direction. But I agree with you. Switching to the turf, Wesley Ward, blinkers off, Johnny V. A lot to like about this one for sure.
Great points. Yeah, I saw it the same way. I know that there's a bunch of first-time starters here, but give me the second-time starter with the equipment change and the trainer in the jockey combo there. So that'll be hopefully a good start for us here on the show. And I know, for the folks watching now, I know that you have a horse in race 2 that you want to talk about, Matthew. You could tell us about that.
Yeah, so race 2 is another baby race, and it is a 2-year-old New York bred race of going 6 furlongs on the dirt, $90,000 purse. And I really like the number 8, Friend of the Devil. 10-1 for Carlos Martin. Listen, he's a trainer that may not hit at the highest rate, but he's had some success with first-time starters. It's not out of the norm for him to get wins with first-time starters or with 2-year-olds. The pedigree for this one may not be particularly overwhelming in terms of first-out success. In fact, the dam has one other horse that has yet to win, and a horse named Jansen. But what really stuck out to me about this was the workouts leading up to this particular race. This horse has some serious 4 furlong works. And I really like the fact that you can go back and look at the July 2nd and June 23rd had 2 very strong gate works as well. That June 23rd one, 7 of 102, going 47-4 down at Belmont. I bring that up because it's good to see. What I hate seeing from young horses is a lot of gate works, because that tells me they're working things out, things even if the times look impressive. And I think that's something where people, if they don't watch the replays, if they don't watch the workouts, sometimes they just look at the time and they go, wow, it's a really good time. Yes, but if you just keep having these gate works, it tells you the trainer's not confident this horse is getting out of the gate effectively, and they're still ironing things out. I love that you just saw 2 gate works, and guess what? Hasn't been back in the gate since. That tells me this horse had some good gate speed, got through the gate drills, got its gate card, no problem at all. we're on to just doing our regular breezes. And I like that 47.4 breeze. That was a bullet up here at Saratoga on July 25th, first of 22. So I just think this one has a little bit of precocity potentially there. And also, an important point sometimes in these 2-year-old races, sold for $145,000, which is one of the bigger price tags that we see in this field. So, again, a horse that might have a little bit of expectations in terms of when this horse was purchased. And, again, Honest Mischief, who is from Into Mischief, first crop sire, has not produced a winner yet, but very limited number of opportunities. And again, I think this is one at 10-1. I'm willing to use this one at a little bit of a price. And listen, in these 2-year-old races with so many first-time starters, anything can happen. Javier Castellano up on the mount. So I just thought I'd take a little bit of a swing there in race 2.
I totally agree, Matthew. I mean, when I saw this horse, I just thought, wow, these are very impressive workouts. And great point about the behind the gate. When we see too many behind the gate, they're schooling, and that's funny. They got to earn their degree there to move on to the next level. So that's it. So Carlos Martin, the trainer. Yeah, I know he's limited starters, but this actually looks like a pretty live horse that could really take some, maybe, I don't know if you can get 10-1, but be nice to get 10-1. I think some of the bettors might see this as well, but great. Very sharp handicapping here. I think this horse is very live. Very good. So very good. So we got the early daily double covered there. I might have to include those two horses in a double there for our friend here at Trust the Profits for doubling down, Colin Sheehan. So like that. Start out with these baby races on the big day. And great. So we got the 2 races there started. So those were 2 value play horses that we like to start off the card. And I like a horse in race 5 that actually caught my eye here. This is number 9. Cyclone State, also a 10-1 morning line. So this is a main special weight with, I just thought it was interesting. There's a lot of first-time starters, and then there's 2 horses that were sired by predominant West Coast horses very recently. Actually makes me feel like time's really flying by here. We got Game Winner and Mackenzie. So let's look at these horses here real quick. We got I Got Game. This is the 7-2 horse that showed a lot of early speed and looked well. So this is from Game Winner, who ran in the Kentucky Derby. And then the horse that I actually like at a price here is Cyclone State by Mackenzie. Been interested by the, these babies for Mackenzie here. And I just thought it was a couple cool angles that I found here that I'm intrigued by. Now you got, as far as this, Luis Saez and Chad Summers, I really couldn't find any history on these two. I mean, I think I got 0 for 2 pairing. Did you have any history on this combo?
No, not at all. It's an uncommon pairing for sure.
Right. So I thought that was odd. And then, debuts at 5.5 furlongs in a pretty strong maiden special weight at Aqueduct. And, gets a little bit of a break now. Now we go back to a lot of first-time starters. Like you mentioned in the previous race, they have a lot of issues breaking from the gate. So this horse actually brushed the gate and steadied and was, beaten 4th place out of 5 horses in a short field, but debuted going off at 2-1. So that's something that kind of caught my eye, was bet on debut for Cyclone State. Now you got 10-1 morning line. And I've been waiting for Luis Saez to wake up. I mean, right now I looked it up, he's hitting 6% right now at the Curtin Saratoga meet. He's a better jockey than that. And I just thought he's a good fit here because Saez is known for getting his horses forwardly placed out of the gate. And I just thought that was a decent combination there. And as far as this, comes back with some nice workouts and a bullet workout going 5 furlongs. So let's look. Yep, I got the bullet workout just the other day here on the 26th, going 59-4, 1 out of 15 horses. Just another indication that the 5 furlongs may like the extra distance going that 5 furlong workout instead of 4 furlongs. And I just thought 10-1 morning line. A lot of first-time starters in this field. I mean, I know you got Todd Pletcher with the 6 here, Classicus. First-time starter is going to take money. And then the Brad Cox horse as well. Sea Vista by Street Sense will take money as well. But Give me Cyclone State. I'm just hoping for a clean break with Saya's aboard now. And yeah, what'd you think of this horse? I mean, I just thought there was a couple interesting angles there.
Yeah, absolutely. I think McKinsey is a sire that has
Yep.
produced a couple of big first time winners. We saw Chad Brown win with a McKinsey baby last week. Chancer McPatrick, who
Mm,
made one of the more impressive moves I think we've seen at the Saratoga meet, where that horse came from absolutely nowhere to win that race. You don't see that often with 2 year olds in terms of
mm,
making big moves from the back. And I think a lot of us, because it was on the Jim Dandy Day undercard, we said, hey, maybe Chad's got himself another Sierra Leone, another horse that likes to come from the clouds and come into a hot pace. But yeah, I think I like that 5 furlong work. I always like looking at
mm,
horses that get bet in debut. That was not a bad debut at all. And
right.
I think that, you pick Louis up and, listen, Louis struggling a little bit, but, he won on Dornoch just a couple weeks ago. He hasn't
Right.
forgotten how to ride a winner. So I like that combination. I think McKinsey's only starting to pick up some more momentum now as a sire, and yeah, definitely like that one quite a bit. And we should mention, just as people like playing pedigree sometimes, the
Yep.
number 7 Sea Vista, who for Brad Cox, who you mentioned, is
Yep.
actually the half sibling to one of his current runners, Nash, who we
Oh, wow.
saw win the Hot Spring Stakes and run in the Woody Stevens and the Pat Day Mile. So that's one who has a little bit of a big pedigree there. But yeah, I really like your choice. I think Cyclone State at 10-1. That outside post. Listen, as long as and this is something to keep in mind for 2 year old races. Sometimes young horses will break out towards open space when they come out of the gate. And so that outside post position can always be a little bit daunting in that regard. But I love having a jockey like Louis Saez, who is so strong to keep that horse going straight and not kind of give up ground by veering out to the right and then coming back in. So I think that Louis kind of fits this horse pretty well. And I also like, listen, you already got a race under your belt. The horse knows what its task is to do. It's not a
Right.
first time debuter. I like it.
Yeah, I landed on a couple of second time starters here. So I agree, maybe just figure it out the second time here. And yeah, I like the jockey fit there. And I just thought it was interesting that they really didn't have any Chad Summers and Luis Saez, no combination there. But maybe I'll get the first winner here on the show. So that'd be great.
I like it. I like it.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Matthew. And so we got race 6. Actually, you're looking at a horse here as well. So we're just going to go back and forth. Appreciate you joining me. And race 6, you actually have a horse here that was interesting to you, right?
Yeah, another first timer, only 5-1, so not a huge value play, but the
Yeah.
number 2 contrabandist for Todd Pletcher, and with the aforementioned John Velasquez aboard. And this is another 2-year-old race, maiden special weight, 6 furlongs on the dirt, $100,000 purse. It is a 10-horse field. A lot of these horses are making their debuts, and in fact, all but one is making their debut. And so, yeah, contrabandist at 2-1 is a horse that I was interested in, sired by Gunrunner. Listen, when all else fails, bet Gunrunner. That's been an ongoing, of mine. This is one who is the half to a very good turf runner, Gigante, who, if you remember, won the Secretariat Stakes at Colonial, which was a
Mm,
Grade 2 race. So Grade 2 turf router winner in a stakes competition and graded stakes company, graded placed in several other spots, listed stakes winner and a few other races also. So, there's definitely some talent in this group. And I just, you add Gunrunner in up top, a very effective first out sire, winning 19% of his first time 2 year old races, one of the more precocious 2 year old sires that we have. And again, talked about how much I respect Johnny Velasquez and what he's able to do on these young horses, getting them to relax, getting them to, just get nice and easy on the front end a little bit, and trained by Todd Pletcher. Those two together winning at a 26% clip
mm,
during the Saratoga meet. And this one also has some nice works. I like the work back on July 7th, which is a bullet work. First of 15 going 5 furlongs in a minute flat. I like the last gate work as well. Again, only 2 gate works. You see the one July 14th. You see the one right before this race on July 27th, 7th of 104. So I like seeing that. Just one last brush up right before the race. And I'll take a little bit of a chance, 5-1 on this runner, and see what we can get out of this race.
Yeah, no, I like it. I think it's good value. I know we're trying to get 5 to 1 or higher, but in a wide open race, you see these angles here, and yeah, I see the PPs even mentioned about these the sire stats. So good
Yeah.
connections. We know Pletcher and Johnny V. So I like that pick a lot there. Number two, good post to work with. So very good. And I know that you actually you could also put a daily double together here too, because you got race
A little
7 as
bit, yeah.
well, right, Matthew?
Yeah, absolutely. We'll just go right at it into race 7, which is
Great.
the Saratoga Derby Invitational Grade 1, going a mile and 3/16 on the on the melon turf course. This is for 3-year-olds. And yeah, I'm going to take a little bit of a shot. And a part of my logic in this race is I don't really love the two shorter prices. So I don't love Diego Velasquez as much as I thought I would. And
Hmm.
this is a horse coming over for Aiden O'Brien, the number 4 horse, that is very well intentioned, coming off of a Group 3 win last time out in Europe and a dominating Group 3 win at that. Is a really short price. Aiden's even flying Ryan Moore over for the mount. There's a lot to
Wow.
like there. Here's the thing. Look at the last race. It was July 18th. This horse is running back on 2 weeks rest and coming overseas for the first time. Now, that's a lot going on right there for a relatively inexperienced horse. And this horse already has a little bit of a reputation of being very hit or miss with some of his efforts. So I just, at a short price, I wasn't sure about this one. Would not shock me if this horse won, but I was willing to kind of play against it a little bit. I'm also not entirely convinced Legend Time is quite as good as some of the other Appleby horses, the number
Hmm.
3 at 7-2. I think this is certainly a very formidable horse, but finished third last time out to Trickery and my ultimate value play in this race, which is the number 8 White Palomino for Chad Brown. And on the far outside post has Flavian Pratt up on the mount. Quite frankly, nobody's been riding the turf better than Flavian, I think. And he has been
Yep.
absolutely on fire up here at Saratoga, winning, as you can see up there, 24% of his mounts, doing a lot of that work on the turf. Yes, he's been riding for Charlie Appleby. Yes, he's been riding for Chad Brown, but he's been giving some really great rides in those spots. And this is a horse. What's interesting to me about this horse is if you look at the buyer speed figures, I know the Brisnets are a little bit different, but generally
Yep.
tell the same story. This horse has progressively gotten faster every time out. And so I always like identifying horses that maybe have yet to run their best race and could still have another notch and another gear to hit when we're talking about finding some value here. The other thing to consider is the running lines on this horse. If you look, the last 2 times out, this horse went to the lead and
Right.
then got nabbed late. And if you look, when this horse broke its maiden, it was actually tracking the pace. And I wonder if this horse is actually just better running at a target. And I think this horse might have the opportunity to do that in the form of the number 3 or number 2 Cugino for Shug McGahee. That horse also has really good early speed. Has Irad Ortiz Jr. aboard on the inside. I could see Irad going forward with this one. And I have a feeling that maybe White Palomino could sit off of Cugino and just stalk that pace rather than being up there.
Mm.
Sometimes horses get lost on the lead a little bit. They may not be able to focus quite as much. They like having a target to run at. I think that might be the case with White Palomino. 8-1, I think, is you don't get Flavian Pratt and Chad Brown at 8-1 very often in a stakes race at Saratoga. So I just thought this one kind of popped off the screen as a potential value play. And honestly, even one that I would love including, I'm going to use him as a win bet, but I'd also include this horse underneath in an exacta for sure.
Right.
Because this is one, even if you go, Matthew, you're crazy, Diego Velasquez is going to win this thing for fun. Okay, then do a 4-8 exacta and just, pair a short price with a little bit more of a heavy price and get yourself at least a nice little exacta pay out there.
I totally agree. I actually was looking at this horse and potentially as one of my selections. And that's actually funny that you mentioned that, Matthew, because I do see the running lines. And, this horse had a much stronger, even broke its maiden, coming a little bit off the pace in a huge
Yeah.
12-horse field. So, maybe the running style suits and you have the right jockey aboard too. You got the jockey that's very patient and he pushes the button, it seems like all at the right time. And I like it a
Yeah.
lot. I just think that's actually one of the big points on my show here is that if you like, maybe a favorite or somebody else in this race, and we're trying to create value and getting these horses in the money, you could always include these horses like in the exacta, and then if you like one of maybe the shorter prices, you could really put together a nice exacta or trifecta.
The example I will always give Keith, as I know you have a play in the race two in the next two, or I'm sorry, race two races from then in the lure.
Yep.
But one of the things that I always tell people about is the horse Happy Saver. Happy Saver made me a lot of money running second. And he would run second to Jack Christopher, and he would run second to Flightline, and he would run second at a huge price. And I
Mhm.
always knew who was going to win that race. I never doubted that for a second, but I also knew who was going to run second. And I would just hammer $20 exactas of Flightline over Happy Saver, Life is Good, or Jack Christopher over Happy Saver, or Life is Good over Happy Saver, I should say. And those are the sorts of times where if your opinion on a long shot is sometimes finding that alternative, finding that second horse in your exacta, you can still make a lot of money that way, and it's a safe bet sometimes.
I totally agree. That's something that you could be convincing as a bettor too. You can kind of separate yourself a little bit from, maybe the chalk over the second choice. Who wants that kind of
Mm-hmm.
payout? So that's amazing. Yeah, Happy Saver. I mean, was there even like a better stable dual horse than that? I mean, just consistently second or third, and yeah, just picking up a
Fantastic
lot of
stable
checks in these
horse.
huge races. So great point.
Yeah, yeah, no, great.
All right, cool. I thank you for sharing that. And we got race 9, the Lure Stakes. And for the first time ever on Keats Cash Plays, I'm going with 2 cash play horses in this
Oh,
race.
a lot of
So
them.
you're here for the record-breaking moment.
I
Is
love it.
that I just thought that this race, I wasn't in love with some of the favorites that I'll talk about, and I just thought it was interesting. So this is the Lure Stakes, going 8.5 furlongs on the turf for 4-year-olds and up, which have not won a graded sweepstakes in 2024. I like a horse here to start it off, so I'm actually going to go with 2 horses in this field. Is Kubrick, the number 1, another Chad Brown horse. I know you just were on a Chad Brown horse. Thought it was a few interesting things here because Frankie Dettori was announced on this horse. I just thought that was interesting alone. We got Frankie's still riding at a very high level, and he seems to always show up on these huge stakes days. I'm just looking for the flying dismount, hopefully for this horse here. And I thought it was interesting. I'll make a point here that I just thought, Frankie and Chad, they have a short sample size, but they have 2 wins out of 7 starts. And so with that, I'll take a little bit of a winning right there, winning percentage. Now, Kubrick, if you look at these PPs, let's look a little further here. Know that he's been in the States for a few races. His convincing win at Tampa was outside of horses, got a nice trip, and just really just kind of swooped the field, but was, outside of horses. We've learned, I've been doing more reading as a handicapper. I think that's actually helped my game a little bit, is that Frankie Dettori, he doesn't like riding horses inside. So this is
Mm,
something that it kind of clicked in my mind that this horse has a running style that runs best outside in that Tampa race in the optional claimer. And then you got a jockey that likes to ride his horses outside too. So it was kind of like a light bulb that came off there. I just thought that was maybe some value. And when this horse won at debut in the States, I liked that Tampa race a lot. It just was inside, it then got outside and clear, like I was mentioning, and got past the entire field. These other 2 races here in the Maker's Mile and the Poker, you had a top jockey aboard, Pratt. So, I mean, this horse is drawing top jockeys. Now you get the extra furlong to work with, to work out a trip here with Frankie. Hopefully, I know we got the inside post on the 1 post, but it's something where the extra furlong, you can kind of work out a trip and angle this horse out. Another thing I like is just no gaps in between these. Yep, I see them here. Yeah, these these workouts. I just thought that that was interesting too. So no gaps. This has been kind of the plan for this horse, and I like the series of 5 furlong workouts. So we got these here as well. So you got this bullet one just recently here on July 26th for Kubrick. So I like this horse to get in the money. I think this horse could take a little bit of money too, though. For Chad and Frankie. What did you think of this selection, Matthew?
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely one I liked. And it's funny, I have a video coming out tomorrow with Michael Domabell, who I talked to about this 2 day all turf pick five that we have as an offering. And this is obviously one of those races. He really liked this horse as well,
Hmm.
Kubrick, quite a bit at 8 to 1.
Oh,
And
Kubrick.
yeah, you're right about Frankie. I think that's an important point to make that Frankie really has been running outside a lot up here at Saratoga.
Right.
And it's interesting because it might be a little bit of a battle of wills. This horse's post position versus what Frankie may want to do with this horse. I think that certainly the horse could easily kind of angle out at the top of the stretch. And the other thing to notice, this horse has run over soft ground a lot and has not
Mm.
really gotten a firm course very often, even going back to its time running in Europe. And so I think that getting that firm turf course obviously responded well to it at Tampa. So 8 to 1 again. You're giving me 8 to 1 on a Chad Brown horse with Frankie Dettori aboard. Yeah, I'm going to be
Yep.
interested for sure.
For sure. I mean, I really thought that was an interesting play there. And then I have one more horse that I just thought was interesting too in this race. Now, let me just talk about Irish Aces real quick. So this horse, I'm going to try to beat this horse. I think his best races are with Lasix, and then the regulation here is no Lasix. So this horse is not won without Lasix. So that's just one angle that I kind of saw here for Irish Aces. I mean, did you have this horse kind of? He also tends to kind of run, maybe second and third more than a winner type. I know you're getting 5 to 1. I looked pretty hard at this horse, maybe as a cash play here, but going to go against it. What was your opinion on Irish Aces?
All the way against as well. And that breaks my
Yep,
heart because I love Brendan Walsh horses on the turf.
me too.
And he and Tyler are usually a really good combination. But this one just feels like a horse that's always going to finish underneath. It's just
Right.
always going to finish second or third. 5 to 1's not a big enough price for me with this one. If this
Yep.
one was like 8 to 1, 10 to 1, sure, I'd be interested. Kind of like what we talked about with White Palomino. Okay, maybe the horse doesn't win, but could run second at a big price. That would be fine. But at 5 to 1, I just can't get there with Irish Aces.
Totally agree. I saw it the same exact way. I said that to myself if I can get 8 to 1 or something like that. But yeah, I just until he gets it done at this kind of level with the first place, I just saw a lot of underneath finishes. And
Yeah.
then I was interested on number 8 here as we pass actually one of my old cash plays here. I'll give him a shout out. Johnny's Fireball. I've bet this horse a couple of times, and I actually got some show dough from him once. So let's see. We got Smoking Tea was the 8 horse here. I was actually interested in. So let's look. This horse. So this is actually going to be a second cash play in the Lure Stakes that I kind of like to get in the money. Now this horse has been in the money 5 out of 9 times at this 8.5 furlong distance. And last race was a tough trip. I mean, in the Arlington, I mean, this horse just bumped at the start and was 2 wide and then 5 wide and just faded. Now I like to watch these replays and to validate that with the trip note. And I just thought it was accurate, actually, that it was a kind of a rush at the start, a bump, and just wide throughout. So if you can get a cleaner trip with this horse and Smoking Tea, now I think the outside draw actually helps him a lot here too. I've been betting these horses that have kind of been drawn inside, get traffic or have trouble. Now you draw outside to the 8 post. It's actually the same exact post that he won the $150,000 Appleton back at Gulfstream Park. So that was interesting there. Just maybe this horse kind of likes the outside post a little bit. And, this is a pretty tough field, I thought, but why not? I mean, it's Shug McGahee, and he's known as a really good turf, trainer. And look at who the jockey is here. We're landing on a lot of Johnny V horses today. So I just thought it was a good fit there, too, as well.
Yeah, it is, and I like this one quite a bit as well. 6 to 1, and we should mention that the favorite in this race, I think, is a very formidable
Yeah,
horse, more than looks. Number 9 for Cherie DeVoe, but that one's coming back from a significant layoff. Hasn't run since the Breeders' Cup Mile last
right.
November, and Smoking Tea. I really like that last bullet workout actually at Fair Hills, which is over a synthetic
Mm,
turf. You don't see that often. And when you see those bullets over the Fair Hills, that usually says a horse is in pretty good shape and is really raring to go. And that's one of the, I'll just give out a general handicapping angle that does not pertain to this race.
Yeah.
Graham Motion. When you see a Graham Motion horse firing off a bullet at Fair Hills, fire away. That
Wow.
usually tells you he is ready to go. And so I kind of apply that same logic a little bit here with Shug McGahee's horse. And yeah, definitely one at 6-1 that is more than a good idea for a value play.
Definitely liking that. And yeah, 2 cash plays in 1 race. So I'm liking that here. All right, good. So we could talk about, the big Whitney stakes. I know we got a huge field here. So let me pull this up here for us real quick. There it is. So we got the nice graphic that you guys came out with here. So Saratoga Saturday, 12-horse field. And I know that we each picked a value play horse in this race. Maybe we'll talk about some of these horses. What did you think? How did you think of this field kind of, Drew? I've seen some, chatter on horse racing Twitter. I love a full field, and I think that there's some very talented runners here. I've heard a couple other opinions, but I think it was a pretty formful grade 1 here. What did you think?
Yeah, I think so too. And listen, I think it also just speaks to the general nature and state of racing right now that, listen, we don't have a hugely populated and talented 4-year-old and up group of great runners. But I think of the ones that are active and running, this is about as good of a field as you can ask for of your 4-year-old males running on the dirt. So you have National Treasure, who's a 3-time grade 1 winner. You have Bright Future, who's also a grade 1 winner. Well, those are actually the only 2 grade 1 winners in the race. So that's kind of an interesting thing to think. And I remember talking to Acacia Clement about this because I was speaking with her a couple months ago before National Treasure won the Pegasus. And we both were playing against National Treasure. And I remember National Treasure, of course, wins that race. And I remember talking to Acacia the next week. And she goes, sometimes we overthink things. He was the only grade 1 winner in that field. And guess what? He ran like a grade 1 horse.
Yep.
And there's a little bit of that feel here where it's like, well, everybody's going to try to beat National Treasure. It's like, listen, this horse is a 3-time grade 1 winner. And Bright Future is the only other one who's even close to that. And, I'm not saying that National Treasure is going to win. I don't like playing chalk in a 12-horse race. And I think there's going to be a fair amount of pace in this race. And if there's pressure on National Treasure, then it's a different dynamic. He's one who does very, very well when he gets to the front. But if somebody else gets out in front of him, I think things could change a little bit. So fun race to talk about. And I think a valid one to go and start looking for a price.
Yeah, for sure. And that leads me, to my cash play here. I guess I'll start it off. I really kind of dug in and went back and forth. I wanted to pick a few other cash play horses here, but I kind of could poke some holes in them as far as class and not running at this distance. So I actually like Disarm here. So let's talk about it a little bit. I know that this is a horse I was on a couple of times. I can't really get on him at the same time, but hopefully today's the day. Now, with Disarm, you're getting 15-1 morning line. Now, I know the last race wasn't good in this Stephen Foster, but this is, before I get into Disarm, I just wanted to say, this is obviously the Whitney, it's the Breeders' Cup winning you're in. So this is a very, huge with the incentives there. Thought it was a interesting puzzle to try to solve, but with Disarm, I have a few angles that really kind of caught my eye here. Is that, he ran against Arcangelo last time here at the Spa, at the Travers. And then, we know Arcangelo ended up being champion 3-year-old male, of the year. So that was just something that Disarm, his best grade 1 effort is here at the Spa. And it was that race. Now, I know it was 10 furlongs. Now we're going back to 9 furlongs in the Whitney. But I've been doing a lot of reading online, and I just thought I liked a lot of the quotes that Steve asked me to sit in the trainer here. And we talked about gun runner. These gun runners could really just pop up. I know that this horse has had a couple of disappointing races. I think that it takes a couple races in the racing season for this horse to really get his full fitness, or to the point where he's really close to a grade 1 horse, hopefully. Now with this, you got the Stephen Foster back on June 29th. Let's go a little closer here. I just thought, it was a disappointing effort. What's interesting to me is the previous year at the Jim Dandy, that was a disappointing effort. It's kind of like the same timing. I know that Jim Dandy was a muddy racetrack that day. Hopefully, we get okay weather on Saturday. I just thought the form cycle was interesting there. That maybe this horse had a disappointing race in the fall. Obviously, wins off the bench in that optional claimer wiring the field. I just thought that was a short field, kind of get this horse kind of moving forward. I just thought it was interesting. The same pattern there. And for Disarm, I just thought 15-1 morning line. This horse ran in the Kentucky Derby, so he just got some back class there to look at. Joel Rosario is, currently hitting 9%. Another jockey I'm just waiting to wake up, like Luis Saez a little bit, get in the winner's circle a little bit more. So just with reading online, I just thought this was maybe the time for Disarm 15-1 morning line to get in the money, hoping for not to come all the way in the back like our friend Krupe here in the race. I just think that maybe this is going to be something where Rosario, I know he's not really the most aggressive jockey, but some kind of mid-flight, and then like you said, if National Treasure can take some heat from some of the competitors, and then I know you're going to talk about your cash play as well. I just thought it was interesting. I think the two posts, and you cut back from that Travers. And then I'm kind of going with that Arcangelo is the strongest of last year. So what were your thoughts on Disarm here?
Yeah, I mean, definitely going to get an honest price on him at 15-1. He's a horse that I think there was a lot of hype about him coming
Yep.
back at 4 because of Gunrunner, because of Steve,
Right.
because, Gunrunner got better as he got older as well. And with a lot of thought that maybe he would follow the same trajectory. That Stephen Foster was disappointing. I expected him to run better in that race, but it's built into the price at 15-1. And like you said, he's now third back in a form cycle. He's run his best races at Saratoga. Maybe he just, is going to kind of be a horse that likes the track up here at the spa. And you're going to get a big price on him, and he's going to likely come from off the pace. I think, that race that he came back with against Optional Claiming Company, he just kind of inherited a glacial pace at Churchill Downs that day. And otherwise, he's a horse that likes to sit mid-pack and go. Joel's ridden this horse to victory before, actually in the Matt Winn going back to last year. So is comfortable with this horse's riding style of sitting off the pace. Definitely one at 15-1. If he can take that next step, if he can get back
Right.
to those 3-year-old races, then he's absolutely a main contender in this race.
Yeah, gonna have to step it up. And like you said, it's just this horse was pretty hyped. I mean, I know that he wasn't a huge, favorite in the Kentucky Derby, but like you said, as a 4-year-old, and now we're here as a 4-year-old. I just remember what I heard, and I just liked some of the quotes that Steve Asmussen said. I mean, he's a big horse that takes, a couple races to get into fitness. So hopefully with Disarm to get in the money. And I know you have a price play here in the huge Whitney. You could tell us about that too, Matthew.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm taking a little bit of a swing with a horse that I think is kind of a very boomer bust pick. And that's a little bit built into the price. And that's the number 11 Arthur's Ride at 8-1. There are absolutely some questions that need to be answered with Arthur's Ride. Switching off Lasix is one of them. Okay. And the speed figure last time out, is it real? Is it not? Because we've seen horses not only out of this race that he ran last time out at Belmont Stakes at Saratoga, but that entire weekend, we've seen horses come back and run a little bit slower their next time out. And it makes you think that maybe the numbers are a little inflated from that weekend. Maybe it was a little bit of a speed favoring track. He managed to go gate to wire. The question is, can he win from off the pace? Because his 2 wins have been, or most of his wins, all of his wins have been gate to wire. That's another question for him. Now, he's got outstanding early speed, and the number 11 post position, I think, is going to force Junior Alvarado's hand. I think Junior knows he's got to go. He's got to cross and clear a lot of horses. He's got to get out front. And I like Junior on that type of a ride. And maybe he can sit right off the flank of National Treasure if National Treasure insists on kind of being forward in this particular race. The main track here at Saratoga, listen, it's been playing pretty well to speed. I'm not saying that it's carrying horses home necessarily, but it can certainly be a positive rather than spinning your wheels in the back. I think we saw that a little bit with Sierra Leone last week in the Jim Dandy, coming from off the pace. At some point, you just kind of exert all your energy getting up there and can't quite get there. Can't quite put forth enough to get home. Like I said, listen, he's got a couple of questions he's got to answer in this race. But at 8-1, he's a horse that has incredibly high upside and willing to take a little bit of a shot with him and just think maybe this is a breakout party for him. He's another one that's had a lot of buzz for a while because he was off for quite a while, then came back. He's part of that 4-year-old crop, but we don't really think of him like that because he wasn't in any of the Triple Crown races or on the Derby Trail, really. But he's another one who was very well thought of last year as a 3-year-old, now comes back at 4. The one thing I will say, if it is a sloppy track, toss him from your tickets. Do not use him. He clearly does not really like the slop. Part of that was he just didn't get away that cleanly that day at Churchill 2 back, and he was sitting a little further behind, and I think just packed it in. But you could tell even watching that race, he did not like the kickback, did not really like the track conditions. So something to keep in mind. We're expecting maybe some minor showers on Saturday, but I don't think anything that would turn it into a sloppy sealed track. Famous last words, of course, so knock on wood for that. But and you saw that last race, 1.25 miles. He can do the distance. That's not the issue.
Right.
He can run for a long time. So something to keep in mind. Bill Mott, Junior Alvarado, I like those connections. So willing to take a little bit of a shot. And I'll be honest, if you were to say who's the horse that I think, who's maybe a little bit of a shorter price, I would be considering is probably Bright Future at 5-1. Not really
Right.
in a big field. I'm not necessarily thrilled with him as a cash play necessarily because 5-1 and 12 horses isn't that big of a price. But he's won visually that last race in the Salvatore Mile. Dear Lord, that was visually impressive because he looked cooked around the third turn. And then all of a sudden, Javi hit the top of the stretch, gave him a tap on the ass. And man, that horse just went and just blew by everybody and was clearly getting into his best stride late. Is going to appreciate the extra distance and is more of a tracking horse. Doesn't need to be on the lead, likes to sit kind of mid-pack off the pace. So he's one that's got some versatility. Like I said, shorter price at 5-1. Wanted to go for a little bit of a bigger price in this bigger field.
I totally agree. You made some great points there, Matthew. I really looked at Bright Future hard as a cash play, and I just thought, let's try to get a little bit more, higher morning line. But I just thought the last run was impressive. You want that kind of, horse that could just doesn't pack it in and kind of, has that second gear in these kind of huge races. And I just think he actually will get a nice trip. I think that he'll be just right off the speed of National Treasure. And I want to make one point about your horse here real quick is Arthur's Ride. I mean, that last race, I think he actually equals the highest buyer speed figure in this race, actually. Yeah. It was 111. So, I mean, it was a freakish performance. Like you said, can this horse kind of, because we know National Treasure is going to most likely be on the lead. Can this horse kind of, like you said, Javi Jr., actually, I'm sorry, will just gun him right out and then kind of be off of his flank. I thought it was just a little much to ask. It's the first time actually that he's running at this distance, but I was totally intrigued by this horse as well. I like the pick a lot. I just thought, Bill Mott's having a good meet right now, so why not? And we've seen what the Tappets can do at this distance here on these New York racetracks. So
yes, we have. Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah, I'll just make one quick shout out to our friend here, Skippy Longstockings. In my heart, I'm hoping he could get his grade 1 finally. I just couldn't get there as a cash play. I just thought visually last race, he didn't fire his fireball like he had in the past. I just, in my heart, I'm kind of rooting for this horse. I've always cheered for him, and he's never gotten a grade 1. And he's kind of been a buzz horse this week. I've watched, a few other content shows, and he's been selected. So any thoughts here on Skippy in the big one?
He's a horse I perpetually underestimate, and so he'll probably win. And so I'd like to congratulate, myself for putting him in the winner's circle by saying that. And no, he's a horse I perpetually underestimate. I've always thought he was a good grade 3 horse. He proved he's a little bit more than that this year, obviously winning that Oaklawn handicap. I don't know if he's a grade 1 winner. I think he's more of a grade 1 placed type of horse. Right. He's also one who's going to be pretty close to the lead as well. So again, this could get a little hot at that point. Now, one thing I will say, if for some reason it does rain a lot, he's going to love it. He's very good on the slop, and his dad, Exaggerator, was great on the slop as well. So
Hmm.
that's something to keep in mind if you're looking at track conditions. But Skippy, listen, let me say this: Safi Joseph has been turning out some nice horses up here in Saratoga so far this meet. Small sample size, but he's had some live runners. So it definitely will be a feel good story to see a horse like Skippy get a grade 1.
Totally, would be a really cool story with a lot of talented horses here, and charge it on the outside 30-1. I mean, I'll just make a quick note on this horse. I remember last year he was really hyped as one of the older. I mean, he was 4 years old then. He was really hyped as one of the top horses in that Gulfstream race and everything, and then kind of went off form. I was surprised, and I mean, it was, I believe, yes, 6-1 or 8-1 last year. He ran in the Whitney. Now you're getting 30-1. I just thought it was a tough task on the outside. And yeah, I wish this horse has a good race. But any quick thoughts on Charge It?
Yeah, listen, he's a horse. Honestly, I thought Fierceness was a little bit like Charge It until Fierceness just won this Jim Dandy. But he's a horse that I think beats up on lesser competition. And if you look at the race he ran in the Dwyer, if you look at the race he ran in the
Right.
Suburban, kind of his 2 signature wins, there wasn't much in those fields. He's kind of a little bit of a schoolyard bully in that regard. He beats up on the horses that aren't as good as him, and when he has to look a horse that is just as good as him in the eye, he kind of doesn't want any part of it. And so he just has never really managed to assert himself
Right.
among the upper echelon. And for me, it's just hard to get behind a horse like that, even though he's 30-1, which is a huge price for a horse that clearly has a ton of talent. But I don't know if he just doesn't have the right mindset or if he just needs kind of the perfect conditions and setup and feels to fire his best.
I totally agree with that. And then we'll mention one more big contender real quick before we move on is First Mission. I know that Brad was disappointed with this last effort. They didn't really have an explanation why. They still think that this horse is a grade 1 type horse. Just the trip was going to be interesting to me. I mean, this horse likes to be on the front speed, and can he track a little bit is the key. I mean, you were pretty high on this horse at 1.2. What do you think of First Mission? Your 9-2 morning line.
Yeah, I was. And what's interesting, I'm high on him, and I think he can get a grade 1 at the right distance. I think he's a mile to a mile and a 16th. I don't like him at 9 furlongs because I don't, even though he won the Essex handicap at 9 furlongs, you look, that field doesn't have much in it. And that was kind of a perfect setup that day at Oaklawn. And like I said, competition was minimal, nothing like what he's going to see here. And I don't like him at 9 furlongs against this caliber of competition. And like you said, the question is the pace because he wants to be forward as well. Well, now we've mentioned about 4 horses that want to be forward. They can't all be forward. So somebody's got to learn how to take back. And he hasn't really demonstrated the ability to do that yet. So I have a hard time getting behind him as the second choice at 9-2 because I do have lingering questions about whether he wants to get 9 furlongs or longer. I know Brad has a very high opinion of him, and he is a talented horse, and I like him a lot. But I like him in certain spots. I think, like I said, I think that mile at a 16th is probably his best distance, and I think he would be very good at a mile as well.
I totally agree. You gotta, a very talented horse. Hopefully, we just don't know if it's the right distance here with the trip, but gonna be a really interesting race. Huge field, and I know, last week there was the 6-horse field, but this is 12 horses. Gonna be interesting for positioning around that first turn. And good, Matthew. I know you got one more horse here, I believe, in the Get Out race here, real quick. Todd Pletcher horse. You could tell us about that real quick.
Absolutely. I love a good get out race on a big day because there's like
Yep.
30,000 people, 40,000 people here. And then by the time it's the 13th race, there's 500 people. And that's my type of race. And those are my type of people.
I love it.
And so I love being out of the track on the 13th race on a huge day, just talking to fans, hanging out, chatting with people. That's when you meet the best
See you
folks.
then. Exactly.
But yeah, exactly. But I'm going to take a little bit of a swing here and stop me if you've heard this before. A horse jockeyed by John Velasquez.
Crazy.
But the number 3, Capture the Flag, 12-1. This is an interesting horse, and this is one who started his career back in 2022, debuted at Saratoga, won in debut on the dirt, promptly took 13 months off, came back, ran a nothing race at Saratoga going 7 furlongs, which you might expect. I remember that race actually. And then switched to the turf and ran a couple of races for Shug McGahee's barn on the turf and didn't run that bad. Ran against some nice horses, ran against a horse like I'm Very Busy, who's a grade 2 winner. This was just in an allowance race. Ran against another horse, Redistricting and Quality G, both of which are very good horses. We just saw Redistricting, that was a horse that was 2 for 3 winning to start his career before that last race. So, two very well thought of horses. Then takes another break and goes to Todd Pletcher's barn and really goes another 9 months without racing. Todd brings the horse back in a sprint. That was clearly just meant to knock the rust off. This horse is not a sprinter under any circumstances. And then they finally stretched the horse out last time with Johnny aboard. The horse wins easy and gets an 84 buyer speed figure. And listen, that number is going to have to go up a little bit more, but now we're third back in the form cycle. I think we can. This horse has a lot of good pedigree. The dam is War Flag, who was a grade 1 winner, won the Flower Bowl back in 2017 and was a Group 3 winner over in Europe and France, and also is a half to the horse Personal Best, who was a grade 3 winner in the La Prevoyante back last year in 2023. So clearly this horse is bred for the turf, is meant for that, and I think is going to have a nice race to be able to take another step forward. You're giving me 12-1 on this type of a runner. I'll take a shot.
Great points. I mean, 12-1 morning line. And look at it. I mean, Todd Pletcher is off to a hot start here at Saratoga. We've landed on a lot of Johnny V horses here. So pedigree looks excellent. And, why not? I mean, this horse was actually, well meant here. I mean, you got Quality Roads. So the get out race, right? I mean, you can really make some value there. I mean, some people are going to be heading for the parking lot, but we're going to be here betting these horses.
Exactly. 100%.
Great, everybody. Thank you so much for sticking with us here. We really, gave you a lot of insight and angles here on Keats Cash Plays. Appreciate you, Matthew, really joining me. Great insight. I always learn some about these horses and just how to handicap and approach. I know everybody's got a different system, but I always pick up something new when I listen to you. And appreciate you joining me here. We're going to talk about these horses just real quick. We'll go real quick rundown. I like Clock Tower for Wesley Ward with the blinkers off. I think that this horse is live, stretch out on the turf. Cyclone State, I just thought Mackenzie horse was interesting here. And then Kubrick for Chad Brown for Frankie Dettori. Thought it was an interesting fit to hopefully point this horse to the outside. Smoking Tea has had some great workouts for Shug McGahee. And then in the huge Whitney, I've been waiting for this horse to really, he's been hyped. I know he's had a bunch of disappointing races, but the Gun Runner is the sire of Disarm. So 15-1, I just thought hopefully you can get a nice tracking trip, get, more than picking up the pieces here. And you can just give a quick rundown of your picks too, Matthew.
Absolutely. So in race number 2, Friend of the Devil, first-time starter who has turned in a series of really strong works. Excited to see what this one can do in debut. Number 6, Contrabandist, Son of Gunrunner, in race number 6, 5-1. And this is a Todd Pletcher, Johnny Velasquez special. I think this one, again, has some nice works, including a 5-furlong one, some solid pedigree underneath as well. And then in race number 7, which is the Saratoga Derby, really like White Palomino at 8-1 for Chad Brown. Flavian Pratt aboard. I think this one could sit maybe a stalking trip, which would maybe fit this horse's running style a little bit better. And then in the Whitney, going to take a little bit of a boomer bust pick with Arthur's Ride, who is definitely has some questions to answer. Switching off Lasix, can he do it off the lead, potentially sitting second or third in the early going, but has some huge upside potential in this race. Excited to see what he's going to do. And the other thing I'll mention, aside from this about Arthur's Ride, is that I didn't mention the first time, Bill Mott is not the type of trainer to put his horses in a bad spot. He's not going to put a horse that is clearly overmatched in a race, especially a full field. It's not like the racing office came to him and said, "Hey, Bill, we only have 4 horses. We really need a 5th, or we really need another entry in this race." there were plenty of entries in this race. He opted to run this horse here. Could have gone maybe to another race later in the year with Arthur's Ride. Decided to take a shot here. I think maybe that speaks to the intentionality. And then finally in the Get Out race, going with Capture the Flag at 12-1. You just heard me talk about this one on the turf, well meant, and I think can take another step forward, third back in the form cycle.
Great insight, Matthew. Thank you so much for joining me, and appreciate all the insight. And thank you everybody for tuning in, and let everybody know where they can find you and what are you up to these days.
Yeah, well, you can find me on X at the handle at Failed to Menace. You can also find all my content at Naira Bets, and that's where I'm doing all my stuff. If you can't tell from my background, I got we just launched the Naira Bets YouTube channel, so we have full card analysis, race, stakes previews, live streams at Assiniboia on Tuesday nights. Those are always a lot of fun. Track stats this week in Naira Bets, but we also have a lot of really great stuff for fan education. So handicapping 101 videos, betting 101 videos, making sure that players feel a little bit more comfortable with how to wager and how to handicap the races. And then, listen, we cover races across the country as well. Right now in the summer, sure, a lot's at Saratoga, but we're going to be talking Del Mar. We've talked, Horseshoe Indianapolis. We obviously cover races at Monmouth Park as well. So a lot of different stuff. We're more than just Naira here at Naira Bets, so make sure to check it out.
Awesome, man. There he is. He's a man of the people, Failed to Menace here. Thank you so much, Matthew. It's awesome. I always love talking horses with you. And thanks so much for joining me here on Keats Cash Plays. And thank you, everybody, for tuning in. And, hit that like button on the way out and subscribe to the channel. And just remember, the huge race day is here. So keep cashing those tickets and keep it moving now. Take care.